Our continuing tour will take us through more than a century of great changes in Tianjin. We'll explore the original centre of finance in the city and visit one of its more exotic neighbourhoods, all along remembering the past through the Western-style buildings. While glimpsing the city's historical glamour, we'll also be seeing the changes that time has brought. Not every skyscraper is tall enough to rise above the clouds. During spring and summer, a dreamlike scene can unfold across Tianjin's cityscape after showers of rain. Low-hanging clouds linger between the tall buildings, dividing the city into two layers, one above the other. Above the clouds, the highest structures take on a surreal appearance. Looking down, the winding Haihe River appears to be wrapping the city in a tender embrace. This is the biggest curve in the waterway's downtown section. In the 1920s, the district became the centre of Tianjin's development on both banks. Impressive buildings were erected in line with its rising prosperity. This is Jiefang North Road, commonly known as the Old Finance Street. Here, the buildings on both sides are fronted with columns in the Western classical style. With their simply shaped tops, locals have taken to calling columns in the Doric style man columns. Meanwhile, because the scrolls embellishing the tops of columns of the later Ionic style resemble a woman's curly hair, locals instead call them lady columns. The nicknames are, of course, a Chinese take on Western-style architecture. Whether Doric, Ionic or Corinthian, Greek-style columns are a common feature of neoclassical buildings. A century ago, prominent banks and multinational companies favoured this style as a way of conveying their power. It was because they set up shop here that the road became Tianjin's Wall Street and the city itself became the financial centre of northern China. In 1863, 3 years after the Second Opium War forced Tianjin's opening as an international port, the Astor Hotel opened up for business here. It featured the very first electric lights, telephones, elevators, gas and tap water in the whole of China. These conveniences made it the most luxurious and modern social venue for the country's rich and powerful. In 1987, a new building was added to the Astor complex, connected by a glass corridor. Today, the glass corridor has become a popular location for wedding ceremonies, located as it is at the intersection of Tianjin's glamorous past and its present prosperity. Another recognizable feature of urban Tianjin is its red-roofed buildings built over 100 years ago. They have become as distinctive of this city as quadrangle courtyards are of Beijing. In this neighborhood, a mix of European architectural styles including Renaissance, Greek, Gothic and Romantic can all be seen. Tianjin, at the beginning of the 20th century, was one of East Asia's preeminent centres of trade. However, it was in fact a time of political turmoil in China. Chinese people of money and status often took refuge in Tianjin. The houses they built were not purely Western in design, but included Chinese elements too, according to the taste of their owners. Thus, a style of architecture unique to Tianjin came into being. Wudadao, meaning 5 great avenues, is a district of the city containing 5 famous roads. Strictly speaking, there are 6 avenues, but Changde Avenue, which leads into Minyuan Stadium at the heart of the Wudadao area, is only half as long as the others. Between the 1860s and 1940s, Wudadao was a British residential area, or concession. The British were passionate rugby players, and they laid out a playing field in the centre of their neighbourhood. In 1926, Eric Henry Liddell, a Scottish rugby union player born in Tianjin, returned to the city after winning the gold medal for the 400-metre sprint in the 1924 Paris Olympics. He brought with him an architectural plan of the advanced Stamford Bridge Stadium in London. He then helped to duplicate it in Tianjin as the 18,000-seat Minyuan Stadium. It became one of China's best-known sports venues in the decades that followed. More recently, after a stint as the home ground for the Chinese Super League team Tianjin Taida Football Club, Minyuan Stadium was closed and repurposed to reopen as a public square in 2014. The professional athletes have gone, and the old stadium is now a vibrant centre of leisure where locals can shop and enjoy fine dining. With Wudadao now a major draw for tourists, many of its old buildings have also been repurposed and now open their doors to visitors. Perhaps the most unusual resident of the city did not reside in Wudadao. Not far from the neighbourhood, Tianjin's Garden of Serenity Mansion was home to Puyi, the last emperor of the Qing dynasty, and his queen, Wanrong. In 1925, soon after his expulsion from the Forbidden City in Beijing, Puyi settled in Tianjin. For socializing with outsiders, he and his wife adopted the Western names Henry and Elizabeth. Having been forced to abdicate, he was obsessed with restoring China's monarchy. In 1932, the invading Japanese installed him as the head of their puppet state, Manchukuo, and with their defeat, 13 years later, he became a prisoner of war. In 1955, he was granted amnesty, and he became an ordinary citizen of the People's Republic of China. A good place to start when guessing the original function of Tianjin's historical buildings can be their names. In 1928, Chuanyechang Emporium opened for business. In Chinese, the 2 characters for Chuanye mean to pursue a career in industry or business. As soon as it opened, Chuanyechang was occupied by over 300 independent businesses. These included a movie theatre, a traditional opera house, and a tea house. As an integrated retail and entertainment complex, it was an early version of a business model that is still popular the world over today. The Italian-style town, situated right along the Haihe River, has more than 200 Mediterranean-style buildings in its vicinity. First constructed in the early 20th century, it was resurrected prior to the 2008 Olympics. Today, its unique and beautiful old buildings centred on Marco Polo Square make it one of the city's most popular leisure areas. Music pervades the air here as crowds flock to enjoy good food and fine wines in the neighbourhood's wide variety of restaurants. An aerial view of Tianjin at night can capture many different sides of life in the city. Here, for example, a game of football is being played on a rooftop. Elsewhere, commuters hurry home from their offices, while others stay behind, working at their desks until late in the evening. Tianjin is a colourful city in which different life stories are played out in every corner. Today marks the 100th anniversary of Tianjin's Nankai University. The entire campus is alive with cheering crowds and spectacular light shows. Next door, Tianjin University joins in the celebrations. For the past century, these two seats of learning have been vying with each other in their scholarship and pursuit of new knowledge. Generations of scholars, scientists and engineers have made Tianjin's universities among the best in the country. Tianjin is a forward-looking city, buoyed by the Chinese dream, gazing into a future of unlimited possibilities.